Alrighty then, hello everybody. Welcome to the Alex Cuesta show. Really appreciate you joining David and I. David's on the other side. He might be a little more silent than normal. I don't know. He might pop in because he decided that buying a printer and putting a printer together is more important than this fabulous show. So since he's so dedicated, I'm happy that you are all more dedicated than David is.
That's because it is more important.
That's just mean-spirited. Anyway, he's David. I'm Alex, as always, as the name says, Alex Cuesta Show. You press play. Didn't have to. Appreciate you press and play. In terms of the socials, still not going to give it to you. Search the Alex Cuesta Show. You don't deserve it yet. Get me more famous and maybe I'll start giving you our socials. Maybe. Anyway, have a good show here for you. It's going to be fun. I'm going to rant as I always do. David may not be there to correct me, may not be there to make fun of me or be more active because, again, he does not care about the show. But we're going to start with what I've been trumpeting every single week. Keep on paying attention to Ghislaine Maxwell trial. It's getting less and less press. And people like Inner City Press and Joe Neerman are getting more and more heat for their coverage and the things that are coming out. There's more little black book things coming out. I know The Hill starting to cover some things about it more, but it seems as more and more comes out, and as, to use a term that all the corporate media use against Donald Trump constantly, the quote unquote walls are closing in on Ghislaine Maxwell, and more evidence, more accusations that are seeming to be true are piling on her. It seems like her smugness has gone away because she might be going to prison for a really long time, but we're still not paying attention to the important part of this trial. And they're really trying their best to not talk about the important part of the trial. And that is all the people, all the celebrities, all the elites that took rides on the Lolita Express, were very good friends with Epstein and Maxwell, Epstein and Maxwell, and continue to be with them on Pedophile Island. Now, whether or not people participated while they were there is not important. If you got on the plane and you went there, you're not blind. You saw what was going on. So I'll state again, I don't care who it is. I don't care what political side they are. I don't care if I've supported them my whole life in terms of what they do. If I hate them, I love them. I don't care. If you took a ride on Lolita Express and went to Pedophile Island, David, what do we do with pedophiles here? What's the word? What do we get them out? What do we put them in?
Wood chipper.
Wood chipper. That's all we do is we wood chip them. I like prompting David now because I see him get a little frustrated because he's in the middle of something and he leans over to talk in his mic, and it's kind of funny. I'm going to try to do that to him the whole show as he's working to kind of disturb him. But continue there. Trial Tracker and Maxwell Trial is still down on Twitter. So you'll need to follow at Inner City Press and at Neerman Joe. It's Joe Neerman, a.k.a. Logic is his name, but Neerman Joe, Neirman Joe is his handle. And he's following it closer to Inner City Press because, again, Inner City Press is covering a lot of different trials. But Joe Neerman's doing a good job with it. Inner City Press doing a good job with it. He puts a lot of his opinions, Joe Neerman, on YouTube as well, and he posts them on Twitter. So if you really want to see what's going on, click on the YouTube link, and he talks about a bunch of it. So there's that. So I'm going to get a little nerdy for a second before I get a little political. So if anyone knows me, or even David in that matter, we're both big manga anime fans. For those that don't know, it's Japanese animation. It's Japanese comic books. The one that started it all for me, and I'm assuming probably started it all for David basically through me, was Dragon Ball Z. And with that, I still follow it a ton. Dragon Ball Super. I still read it all. They're coming out with a new movie next year in April in Japan. I'm excited for it. But with that goes, I read a lot of little tidbits here on all the things I like, whether it's anime, Star Wars, politics. I'm always constantly looking at articles, reading different things. Screen Rant, Comic Book Resource, comicbook.com. Give you guys all shout outs there. They do a lot of these little lists or little blurbs. And one thing that I've seen reoccurring, which David said he hasn't, but I've seen and it pisses me off, is they talk about how Goku at the beginning of the Planet Namek arc had a quote unquote newfound power of telepathy that he never showed and then never used again. Now, what annoys me about it is not the fact that he had the telepathy. It's the fact they said it's newfound. That's bullshit. These are people that shouldn't be writing. And this kind of goes with, I guess, the blogosphere media that we have today. Everyone's allowed to just kind of say whatever the hell they want. And editors aren't real editors because most of them are getting paid like $11 an hour just to get their name on these sites. So it's not true. Goku's had a semi-sort of telepathy for a long time. Started in the regular Dragon Ball when Krillin died to Tambourine, and he felt it. Basically, the best way to say it is that anyone that he's close to, that Goku trains with and everything, he can basically talk to them through his brain. He did it to Gohan during the Saiyan saga and Krillin, and we've seen it in a bunch of movies. And he has this inner ability. He always has. And it looks like anyone that taps into a hard form of martial arts and trains can do this. Hiroshi's done it. King Kai constantly does it. Any of them, I think it just comes to a level of when you train and you get that certain set of calm, you're able to open parts of your brain there, which is also kind of Shaolin myth that they bring in there, is when you can kind of have openness, calmness in your martial arts and things. You can open up different parts and do different things with discipline. So that's my mini rant, nerdy rant there, is stop fucking saying that it's a power that he just got and that he doesn't ever use again. You don't know that. You don't know if he's reading things like off of other people and he just, they don't express it. So no, good chance that Akira Toriyama just forgot that he did it, because Akira Toriyama forgets everything. He forgets whole characters that are important to everything and just writes them off without saying anything about them ever again. So who knows? But it's my little rant there. Now, Dave, we're going to jump into a little fun political thing for a few minutes here. So the Biden regime, and I call them regime, they're not administration. It is an absolute regime that we have there, because it's a whole entire collection of them doing authoritarian crap going on there. But not on two separate occasions, which I think people miss out. Everyone on Twitter is quoting one where basically, I think it's one of the health secretaries says, you know, we're trying to do the best to not have Christmas be offset. But if you're vaccinated, you could basically enjoy it. But if you're unvaccinated, you're going to enjoy a Christmas of severe illness, hospitalizations, and death. So the Biden administration is quite literally saying, get the vaccine, cool. You don't have the vaccine, fuck you, die. That is nice. And I have to point out, a lot of people were saying it was him. I looked on the government website. You could look on it. Biden gave a part of a speech and said the exact quote that health administrator said, word for word, the exact thing in a speech. He didn't preface it with Christmas first, but he talked about the unvaxxed having a terrible time of it, overpopulation hospitals, severe illness and death. So this uniter in chief, Dave, is doing a great job uniting, and it kind of walks into what we're going to talk about today. And he's doing more and more to pit vaccinated versus unvaccinated. Do you have any comments on Biden and his administration wishing happy death day for anyone that doesn't have a vaccine?
I like it.
At least they're being honest, I guess.
I like it.
You like it.
Fucking straight up threat. I love it. It really is kind of funny. I brought this up earlier when we were talking, and this has nothing to do with what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
But there are some things that are happening in the world that would have been great comedy skits. Like this right here would have been a really good comedy skit. Just a dumb one. So outlandish that it'd be funny. Just like what had happened in, I don't remember where it was, but in an elementary school.
DC. It was a DC elementary school in third grade.
DC elementary school where I think it was a librarian or a teacher.
Librarian, I believe.
Yep. Third graders reenact the Holocaust, like actually act like they're dying from gas chambers.
What's the best punchline about this, Dave? Who played Hitler?
A Jewish kid.
It was the only Jewish kid in the class playing Hitler.
And but that's what I'm saying. Like this sounds like a dark comedy skit, but it's not. And it's really conflicting because obviously it's terrible, but it's like almost comedic genius. And it's awful. This
is like some Key and Peele, Dave Chappelle type of shit that they would do. And, and it would be funny. It would be funny if back when I think one of them did an Obama impression in it for a little bit. And it would be funny if they did like a similar thing with a Biden impression. Like Have a Merry Christmas for the vaccinated. For the unvaccinated, fuck off and die.
See, the thing is, I could see them doing it, but the one skit show that comes to mind is like Whitest Kids You Know, and that was on. I don't know if you were. Yes,
I know Whitest Kids.
But like, because I remember one of their skits was the Grapists. Like if they're willing to do that, they're willing to have a skit about third graders reenacting the Holocaust. That's I just can't get it out of my head. It's ridiculous. It's so out there, and obviously this person needs to go to jail, really. But like it's so outlandish, just like the threat from the White House.
Do we send that teacher to jail, or do we send them directly to Hollywood to give ideas? Like they could be like Cartman's Awesome 3000 and just start giving ideas to execs and have Adam Sandler in every single idea.
But it's a South Park episode. Yeah, you could see Cartman basically did do that. Like this,
Cartman has dressed up as a little Hitler multiple times in South Park.
Yeah, so like. But I'm
just because he hates Kyle.
I'm sorry for derailing. I just had to.
Oh no,
I had to get that off my chest.
And it's good that you brought up Nazism, because lo and behold, Austria is deciding that they're going to pay tribute to their most famous Austrian, Adolf Hitler, and they're going to start going full Nazi. They are looking to implement, I think, mandate law something where they want to have employees that specifically seek to control those who are refusing to get the vaccine. Essentially, if you don't have the fucking vaccine, they're going to send people after you. And I don't know, Dave. What's next? They haven't. I don't think in the article it specifically said. I think it said detain them, but I don't think it specifically said anything about camps. But we're getting there, man. Australia has your quote unquote little vaccine. You got sick camps. New York there's a bunch of people in the media disputing that New York is having a bill come across the assembly that's saying they could detain people for an indefinite period of time until their health administrators deem they're not a public safety risk anymore if you have if you have COVID or you're unvaccinated. It's getting real fucked up out here, Dave. We're seeing more and more, the word is thrown around, but more and more fascist Nazi tactics looking like they're being put in a place where they're trying to use the public and merge businesses and merge people with the government to get to their means, Dave. It's getting really spoopy, I guess is a way to put it. It's getting spoopy.
And you don't have to compare it to Nazism, because you do that immediately. What is it, Godwin's law, where it's like almost everyone I don't like is Hitler or something like that. If you're losing an argument, you bring up the Nazis. But you can just say, even without comparing it to Nazis, say, hey, is it correct for people to be round up for not taking a vaccine? I feel like that's just a genuine question. And you don't have to bring up Hitler. You don't have to bring up Nazis. I get the reason of doing it. I get the reason.
But the problem is that question brings up a lot more yeses than anyone should be comfortable with. Like, that's the thing, is you get a ton of yeses from people now.
I think it brings up a lot more no's than you think. I think Twitter is kind of made us feel like it's a lot more yeses, especially there might be more yeses in some metropolitan areas, but even then it's metropolitan areas where it's people that have jobs that gives them a more cushy lifestyle. I think for most people, it's still going to be no. And I think it's going to stay that way, especially because if you already can't afford food and gas right now because of inflation, and let's say you haven't gotten the vaccine because for any reason, whether you just don't want it, they're going to continue to say no to all these things.
The only doubt that I have about this is the descendants, the people before their grandparents and great-grandparents were the same ones that were cool with putting Japanese people in camps over a war effort. And it was a yes. And this is probably on a more dangerous scale than the Japanese in their own country being interned. So I don't know. It's the same people that shared that philosophy that are now a few generations down and more college educated. So more than likely more thinking, and the thing is, to give James Lindsay some credit, the very smart people, once they hear one very smart person say something, they all parrot it. And unfortunately, you're talking about middle America, but middle America is made up of a lot more of these college educated pseudo smart people now. And those are the ones that you're going to get a lot of yeses from, because these little pseudo smart people don't want to sound dumb in their own dumb circles. So if you ask them, should these people be rounded up and put in a camp for the good of society because they're continuing this virus, you're going to have a lot of these quote unquote really smart people that are going to look at it and say, well, so-and-so is, had a peer reviewed paper on how that would be good for society. So yes. And I think there's a lot more people now, because of the whole entire you need to go to college generation, created a lot more of them. So I don't know. It's scary to think that in my eyes, there's a lot more yeses than there should be. I think there's still going to be a lot more no's. I agree with you. The no's will be more, but there's going to be I think in the 30 to 40 percentile of yeses, which scares the shit out of me that we can even get to that point. So
the biggest problem, though, is even if you have that many yeses, there's so many no's in certain fields, not even certain fields, in all fields, where you would literally have to be more than willing to just say, you know what, plummet the country in order, if you were actually to go, let's say, full bore on just saying, okay, all unvaccinated, you don't need to go to camp, but you need to go somewhere else. Let's just say they say they need to go somewhere else because we cannot regain our footing as a society unless we somehow get this under control with a vaccine that doesn't stop an infection. But let's say they decide to do that. They don't do anything like necessarily wrong. Like, no, they're not saying contradict. They just they take them and push them somewhere else, like from SpongeBob. They wouldn't be able to do that and still run the country well, because I'm going to tell you right now, there's more than enough truckers that do not want to get the vaccine and will not do it. And if you know anything, truckers are what makes this country work. So just in that field alone, you cannot go full bore in this. And even if a bunch of very smart, quote unquote, people decide to say yes because they're non-college educated, they just don't understand it, whatever. Let's just say they all decide to say yes. Even if they did, it wouldn't work out. Like, there's enough people that would say, well, we really can't do that because we won't have a country anymore.
And also, I think the biggest factor, Dave, and this kind of branches into what we're going to talk about soon, we got a whole lot of guns in the hands of the citizenry. And you don't want to do something that fucking stupid, because there's a boiling point that it gets to it. And when you have a citizenry of majority handgun owners, at least, and a lot of them like their toys, so they have more than handguns, they're not kind of the people you want to fuck with in this situation. And that's the difference between this country and your Australias and your UKs and your Canadias, is we all have guns.
And to be honest, I'm actually very surprised there aren't a lot more like just random shootings over this stuff already. I'm not going to lie to you. Like for a community, like a gun community that's so bashed as being like crazy people, I think they've showed that they're really not that crazy.
They're responsible.
There would have been a lot more people getting shot if you thought like they thought that certain way.
And not to branch off too much, before we jump into the next topic, I just want to say, as much as people think that talk radio and right-leaning heads are insane, they're the ones I think doing the most to not have that happen, Dave, because so many of them are saying, buy your guns, own your guns, be prepared, but be intelligent with them, use them wisely, and never take them. You'll hear any of them, don't take them to rallies. Don't bring them. A lot of them always say, if they do have walking around with their ARs or whatever, it's stupid. It's your right to do it. But a lot of your commentary is saying they're not a fan of bringing them because it only looks like violence and it can only breed more violence, open and carrying like that. But a lot of them are saying, do not stoop. Don't do this type of violent shit. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see if it keeps going. I know Glenn Beck talks about the Bubba effect all the time, and the Bubba effect might happen. Dave, do you know what the Bubba effect is?
Yes. And I would say it already probably has happened multiple times.
I don't think to the extent that we're thinking. Essentially, real quick, the Bubba effect, what it is that a small pocket, a community of people get so tired of all the bullshit that the government's pressing down upon them that an outsider comes into their town, does some dumb shit. The town handles it. One of their good old boys kills them. And when the government comes in to say we have to investigate, they all stand basically at the border, guns ready, saying, we already handled it. All you guys do is fuck things up. Get out of our town, thus starting a small pocket of, conflict. So I think a lot of people think we're getting to that point. I hope we don't get to that point, but damn, it looks like we're pushing there. Anyway, we're going to get to the main topic today. We wasted enough time. David loves to waste my time, but we wasted enough time. Main topic today is us as a people, especially anyone that's politically active, needs to stop treating, talking, thinking of other people in quote unquote groups as a monolith. Now, what do I mean there? If you don't know what I mean, essentially that David and I, we're both Ecuadorian. We're Hispanic. It's not right to, number one, assume that just because David and I are Hispanic, we think, we act, we believe exactly alike. Now, me and David, it is true. We tend to kind of lean towards enjoying similar things. But we certainly aren't identical in what we enjoy. We have differing opinions on our politics, even though we agree on most of it. He likes different types of, we both like anime and manga, but he's reading different things that I do. He suggests them, I suggest to him, and we have different favorites. So it's not fair to say that a certain population is like this, period. Now, we're all guilty of it. We're all guilty of it. I talk about the left in a certain way, which in a little bit, I'm going to defend the way I talk about the left a little bit. But I guess a better example is when a tragedy occurs where, perfect example, unarmed black man gets shot by police. And the narrative automatically comes, well, this is how black people feel about this. Or any sort of tragedy. This is how Spanish people feel. This is how gay people feel. And there's more people stepping up and saying this, but I feel like everybody needs to start stepping up and saying, fuck you. Whenever anybody says something like that, just know, because it's not true. We have to stop allowing people to create that narrative that if, Al Sharpton is great at this. He goes and he speaks for the black community. Wherever he goes, if there's a tragedy, he's always there and he's speaking for how the black community feels about something. And then if you have somebody who, Eric July is a good example, a black man that's kind of like, no, I don't agree with that. Jason Whitlock, automatically those guys are chastised. But it's because of the way we started to think about everything. We think about everything in terms of a scope of everyone's represented by their immutable characteristic, and there's a few spokespeople for that whole group. And Dave, I feel like it's been years of, for lack of a better term, grooming by both the media on both sides, politicians on both sides, kind of digging their feet in the sand in a way on certain topics and creating this monolith experience. Like you can't, like if you're a Republican, you have to agree with everything down the line, Democrat, everything down the line. And that's not true at all. But it's the way we're looking at things. And Dave, I think me and you last week, when we kind of talked about this, we kind of got into it a little bit because I was saying, we need to talk with a little more nuance. And you agree, but I think you were also talking about how things are more black and white than they seem in terms of answers. And not what, essentially going off that point, how do you feel about just like the start? Like the way we're talking about everything as a monolith right now, like there is no nuance in anything that's going on major politically right now.
So specifically what I was saying last week is that I agree that when you are speaking to someone, or maybe even a group of people, not a large group, but when you're speaking to someone or a group of people and you're just having a discussion about things, just talking, whatever, then you really should put nuance and actually discuss like, all right, what do I believe here? Like, what are some exceptions to things? And you can parse through all of that. The reason why I brought up, like, while you may need to be more black and white at times, not to say that everything is black and not to say that there's a correct answer exactly, but if you are presenting to a lot of people, it gets very confusing for a large group, and you'll never fully get your idea across if you try to completely nuance your way through a topic. You can add certain things into what your belief is on the topic, but generally, if you're staying more solid, staying more black and white on it, they'll understand what you mean. And then if you ever actually have to explain yourself more on it, then you can become more nuanced. But if you're just stating something, it is more than likely better to state, I am on this side, this is what I believe. And then if pressed further, you can delve more into the topic. And that's not to say backtrack. Let's say if someone actually really presses you, don't backtrack, obviously, but delve more into what you mean and why you believe that.
Now, I also think that social media has played a big role in kind of boxing us all into categories, and the internet in general. Because if you look at social media profiles and shit like that, and again, Dave, I don't know who looks at anyone's profile anymore. I don't think it's a popular thing anymore, especially with like walls and like the way Twitter works. But if you do go look at somebody's profile, you could look at their info. And what are we asked to do, Dave? We're asked to fill out our profile, put exactly what we like, exactly what we dislike, exactly this and that. And we're forced to pick things. So essentially, when you go and look at somebody's profile, like, you look at it, and I'm imagining a lot of people right now go and look for political categories or groups that they're affiliated in. And before you even talk to a person, before you read a single thing that they post, you automatically can start building an idea of what they are based off the fact that we're now thinking of everybody in a certain sense. Like, if a person is a Republican and they joined, they're still a part of a John McCain for president group. Maybe I stumble upon it, look at it, I go, nah, fuck, he's a neocon. I don't like this person. But then I talk to him and they're like, no, I joined that group because he was the best option. Actually, we agree on basically everything. I just stopped joining groups and I forgot I was even in that one. And it just kind of builds on that theory of just because somebody believes something, we have to treat them and that whole group in one way. And again, we're seeing it now with the January 6th bullshit. There is a lot of people, not a handful of people that broke some laws there that deserve to be prosecuted. But with the way anybody is treating that attended that rally is getting treated is absolutely fucking insane. If you were there, automatically you're a neo-Nazi and you're demonized, which is hilarious that anybody calls anyone on the right a neo-Nazi, because if you're a neo-Nazi, you're not on the right. But that's automatically they become painted as. And it's insane that that's even, again, the monolith thing, that's the bullshit that's going on. And I think one of the problems is, Dave, and we're seeing it better now, but people that are boxed into this shit are too scared to speak up about it. They're too scared to speak up because they don't want to get bashed. They don't want to lose their job. They don't want to be seen in their community as, the person that doesn't agree. Or they can't be bothered or they don't give a shit. They live their lives. If you like politics, you think that everyone's in the same bubble as you. You think that everyone's thinking the same way as you. Everyone cares. I want to say 80% of the population doesn't give a fuck about politics, at least 80. And that's ballooned now since Trump and Obama. I think Trump and Obama opened up a lot more people being interested in politics. But I think before you'd probably say 90% of people did not give a fuck about politics. At least I think 80 now don't care. So I really think a lot of people, it's like, if you tell them, you're like, are you mad that there's somebody speaking for your whole community? If you go to a gay person, it's like, do you really do you feel this way? Someone is saying this and they're looking and going, shut the fuck up. I'm just trying to live my life. Leave me alone. It doesn't matter that I'm gay. Leave me the fuck alone. I feel like that's how most people feel. They don't want to be bothered. So I don't know, Dave. I just think that there's so much that's exasperating this. Is there an answer right now for how to cure kind of the monolithic thinking of, and if we expand into the metaverse, it's going to get worse because people are going to create their little avatars and their bullshit, and they're going to be basically portraits of what they want to be associated with as a group. What's going to be the answer here?
So the main problem, at least that I feel it is that the personal is political. So people are inherently tribal. we will inherently stick to a side. We'll inherently think of things in groups. It just makes brain function easier. That's what it does, and it makes life easier.
Wasn't that Benito Mussolini that said everything is the state? And that's essentially what we're doing. Everything is a state, personal, or political.
Yes. Yeah, I believe it. I can't remember if it was Mussolini, but it is a leftist thing. I'm not trying to like.
Oh, I am.
It's the other side.
It's leftist thing.
But it actually is. Like, just historically, it is. That's the thing. But that's the big problem. When the personal is political, that's when everyone starts really dividing into these lines and just kind of hating everyone that's in another group. Like, we have sports for a reason. Sports are the easiest way to be tribal people and just enjoy your tribe, say go team, without killing each other. And that is the best reasoning for sports in general. And it's an outlet. Now, when that outlet starts becoming political, that's when the sport almost doesn't matter anymore, because that was just a release. Get away from all of that. But now, if you can't get away from all of that, then what's the point of sport? What's the point of not disliking the person that's even an inch away from you politically? So it's just, we have to get away from having the personal be political. And that's going to be the main way you stop the tribalist thinking and just the hate of anyone that doesn't have every single opinion that you do, because you'll hear it from anyone. Now, I don't know about my age, but your age and older, almost, that like, oh man, we always used to have friends where we didn't agree on everything. That's a statement you hear from a lot of older people, and that's a statement I'm used to hearing. That's a statement that I would say myself. I still do have friends that we don't argue all the time with, but you're seeing it more and more that your age, older, it doesn't matter, because the personal has become political. Everyone is boxing themselves off to certain groups and then feasting on each other when someone steps out of line. And that's both left and right. Like, that's not a one side thing. It's a thing that's happening because people are just becoming very, very tribal.
Yep. Can agree with that. Now, I have to defend when I said, earlier, basically, that I used the example of the left when I was talking about the monolith type of stuff. Now, one of the reasons is because naturally, if you're looking at a divide between the philosophies, the base philosophies of the right and the left, part of the philosophies of the left is communistic, is socialistic, is collectivist. If you're going into the true left, the far left, which we are getting more and more of in this country, there is more of a hive mind mentality on that side. And especially when you get into more of the radical collectivist, it is think my way or gulag. Essentially, think my way or camp. And we're seeing a lot of that. We're seeing a lot of that in terms of right now what we're doing with masking, vaccinations, COVID-19. We're seeing a ton of it where it's follow the science or else. And when people say follow the science, when people say trust the science and listen to the science, anyone that uses the term the science is a fucking idiot, because science is always and constantly meant to be challenged. There is no such thing as the science. There are very few scientific laws. A scientific law is the only thing that you can say is that is concrete. Everything else is a theory. Everything else is a hypothesis. They all need to go through a ton more of empirical evidence and, scientific rigor and the scientific method. When you're talking about something like a novel virus that is right now COVID-19, there is no the science. There's a bunch of very good hypotheses. There's a bunch of educated guesses. There is maybe some theories, some good theories out there pertaining to COVID-19, to coronavirus, to SARS-CoV-2, and what's going on with it. But no, there is no the science. So anytime you hear anybody saying follow the science, just look at them and tell them, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. There is no the science. Because the best thing about science is it is always being challenged. It is always being changed. What one scientist proclaims as a breakthrough today could 1 year, 1 month, 5 years, 10 years be proven as completely and totally false. So I'm so tired of hearing follow the science. We believe in science. We trust scientists. Which ones? Because I guarantee I could find ones that disagree with you. And why? Because yours was on fucking CNN and MSNBC. Mine's wrong. Like, there was a group of doctors that were out front and banned on all social media because they were talking up hydroxychloroquine and certain other treatments that they were providing the patients and had empirical data success on it. Whether you agree with it or not, there is empirical data for successes and failures on all this stuff. So I'm so tired of hearing the follow the science, but that kind of is an aside to what I was saying, where the hive mind mentality is there. Either be with us or else. And that needs to end. And we need to break that. And one of the ways we break that, Dave, is private property and ownership to create more individual pride and individualism. It's what made this country great. It's the most American thing ever, is private property for the masses, not just for the elite, for the masses. And here's why I say that. Because when you have ownership of something, when you own a home, when you own something, it becomes part of you. It's a possession. You will fight to keep that thing. You don't want anyone to tell you what you should do with your property. So it creates that individualism. It breaks away from that hive, because Billy Bob Joe next to you doesn't own your home. They have no fucking say what goes on your lawn. They have no say what goes on in your house. As vice versa, you have no say on theirs. But if you didn't own your home, if you were just a renter and you and Billy Bob rented from the same exact people, all of a sudden, you and Billy Bob are now on the same team. You could think of in a hive mind. What goes on your houses might be important because you guys might need to form a front against whoever you're renting from. So that private property ownership is important. And Dave, we're seeing a lot more of an attempt to create a renter society, Dave. And we already see it in the cities. The cities are the ultimate renter societies. And what are these we see constantly in the cities, Dave? We see a lot of neediness. We see a lot of reliance on whether it's a state or a different power in order to get things. The masses are not free in the cities. It's probably the most restricted places in the United States. So I really feel like that's my answer. I don't want to delve. We could definitely delve more into the cityscape and certain things that go on there. And I don't think that this is the appropriate topic to delve into that. But I think that's the only answer, Dave. We need to, like you said, we need to start taking away the personal as political. But I think one way to do that is to promote ownership, to get back to individualism.
Yeah. I mean, it's mainly don't think of yourself as part of a community per se, especially when a community is based on just a trait. If your community is based on a trait, then it's not really a community. It's that simple, because most of the time you're not even going to think like even 25% of the people that share that trait with you.
Yeah.
And so but that's why you strive for something more like individualism, more like owning yourself in a way.
Yep.
Because the only person that you really owe anything to is to yourself. Maybe family unit. I don't know exactly how every culture works through it. Some care more about the family than others. But overall, if you're going to help yourself become better, you're going to have to care much more about what you own and what you are striving for than for a community. Because at least with a family unit, it's not going to be 20 people unless it's a really big family.
Yeah. One of the things that I did on the medium while I was still doing the media and the interviews is I tended to try and ask my guests not to tell me what they are. Don't tell me you're a Republican, you're a Democrat, you're a Libertarian, you're this. Tell me that that's your political philosophy. My ideology is this. My politics are this, because they aren't them. And this is kind of a challenge that I want to issue to everybody, including us here, Dave. Let's stop talking red and blue states, because before, that was a thing. I forget which presidential election it was. I would need to look it up. Probably should have that more in. But before this certain presidential election, they used to flip the colors every year for who won what state. There was no such thing as a red and a blue state. One year, Republicans were blue. Another year, they were red. And then there was a certain network that just decided Republicans red, Democrats blue. And it's been that way ever since. And we need to flip that. There needs to be no more red state, blue state, because that right there was already starting a dividing line, because we hear it all the time. Go to the red states, go to the blue states. What the fuck does that even mean? We're the United States. We are the United States. We are a bunch of essentially, that's what people don't understand. And I think people need to start to realize about the United States. We are called a union because we are a bunch of individual nation states that have agreed to stay together to protect each other for each other's well-being. We are basically, our theory was united, we are much more difficult to take over. We can defend each other and we can use each other's resources together while maintaining our individualism as states. Because even back in the 13 colonies, there were so many differences between the populations of each state that they understood that a federal government should not and could not speak for all 13. So they agreed. And there was individualism states-wise. And all of a sudden, you know, maybe the Civil War really started a lot of this shit where people started thinking north-south. And then the expansion into the West, and all of a sudden there was the West. And everyone just kind of started putting themselves in these pockets. And then fast forward 100 years, whatever, we now have a TV station that has declared red and blue. And now we hear it constantly. I want to go to a red state. No, I'm going to be in a blue state. No, motherfucker, you're in the United States. You're in New York, or you're in Texas, or you're in Utah. You're not in a blue or a red state. You're in that state. And it's why the EU is trying so desperately to be the United States, but they cannot. Number one, because the history of those places is way too goddamn deep to tell them to join up and really give a shit about each other. That's the biggest reason why the EU will always fail. But number two, there is way too many collectivist socialist ideologies there to allow them to be individuals. And that was the beauty of the way we were created as a representative republic. And that's it. We need to get back to being more individuals. We need to get back to the first phrase on any of our coins: mind your business. Mind your fucking business. If you're doing what you're supposed to do, do it. Care about yours, care about your families. Don't worry about anything that anybody else is doing. If you think that taking a booster every time it's available, wearing 19 masks plus a fucking actual diaper on your face is going to protect you from COVID, so be it. But do not worry about the person next to you that decides to go sans mask and hasn't taken a vaccination in years. Leave them the fuck alone. None of your business. It's no one's business. They're not hurting you. Contrary to what you're being told, they are not hurting you. They will not hurt you. So stop it. Worry about yourself. Worry about yourself. I think that's the message I'm going to close this off with. Mind your goddamn business. Worry about yourself. Be an individual. Stop looking at goddamn social media. Stop posting up pictures of bullshit that you're not actually doing, and live your life and be you. And I guarantee if we all just worry about our goddamn selves, this country will rebound so quickly. And we will be out of this coronavirus, and we'll live our lives and we'll have a great time. We'll be the United States again. But if we continue to worry about each other and think of each other as us versus them, my group versus your group, and your group is everything that I think, and it doesn't matter who you are as a person, you are your group, then we're fucked. So everybody, thank you for listening. I appreciate it. David, as always, fun having you here. I hope you built your computer. Is your computer good and ready to go? No, you're shaking your head. You failed?
No.
Failure. Just absolute failure. So we have a special episode coming your way. We're going to Florida for Christmas as a family, and we are going to be recording. It's not going to be live, but we're going to be all in person doing it. I'm going to record it and put it out as I always do. But we're going to have my father on the show. I would say the influence on both of us, and including, everyone that's around him. He's kind of has an orbit in when he starts to talk about politics. But to be quite honest, I have no fucking clue how this is going to go. I have no clue if it's going to be good, if it's going to be terrible, if it's going to get me kicked off, or if it's going to get us more fans. Who knows? but we're going to have a good time with it. We're going to have some fun. Dave, how do you think this is going to go?
It might be a lot of arguing. Who knows? We may both be shutting up for a while because he likes to be a bit of a grumpus when he gets a little loud when he argues.
It's not even shutting up. It's going to be, we're going to go to talk and he's just going to cut us off. Just be ready for a lot of cutoffs. The man cuts us off. It's going to be good. It's going to be fun, but just be prepared. Alex Cuesta, the actual Alex Cuesta, the original Alex Cuesta, he's going to be on the show from Florida as we're supposed to be enjoying a vacation. And there's a good chance that my mother pops in and tells us all to shut the fuck up. So we will see where this goes. It's going to be a good time. I think everyone's going to enjoy it. I know I'm going to enjoy it. So again, thank you for listening to this episode. Hope you appreciated it. With the socials, again, fuck off. You're not getting our socials. Go look up the Alex Cuesta Show and you will find it there. Continue to follow Ghislaine Maxwell and that trial, putting pressure, tweeting as much as you can, putting out names of all the people in the little black book, hold them accountable. And yeah, enjoy this episode. Dave, do you have anything left to say before we dip on out of here?
Oh, and if you do listen to this and you want to argue with us or just discuss things, I would love to, whether it's on social media or if you even want to come on here. I don't know. It has to be scheduling wise. We'd like to do this every Wednesday, I believe.
Yep. Get in touch.
Yeah, get it. If you want to talk to us, I'm open. I will not be a dickhead to you unless you like.
I probably will.
Listen, if you like being aggressive, I'll be aggressive back. That's fun. Don't get me wrong. It's a lot of fun. But if you want to just talk, I'm good with that. I'll talk about anything. You never know what you could learn, honestly.
Yeah. I agree with David. Come on the show, get in touch with me. And if you can't do a Wednesday, we could figure out a day because the topics that we generally talk about besides our little tidbits before are pretty evergreen. So we can kind of talk about whatever. I agree with Dave. Come on the show. Come talk with us. It doesn't even have to be politics. Be whatever the fuck you want. We talk a lot of politics, but I talked about Goku. So there you go. All right, everyone. I appreciate you listening. Hope you enjoy the episode. Next time you'll hear from us, we'll be in Florida. Talk to you later, guys. Have a good one.